Hey guys, it's Kimberly again with Life Talks Explore Your Calling. And today we're going to be talking with Andrew Brill, who is one of the assistant district attorneys with Barrow County. I've known Andrew, we tried this video again, but we had to restart. So we're going to kind of shorten things just a little bit, but we determined that I've known Andrew since he was about 15, when I really saw in him just a heart for serving. And so it didn't really surprise me that he went into something where he could serve the community and others through what he's doing now. So Andrew, tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing, kind of how you got there, and just a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing right now.
Sure. So just some background. I moved around a lot as a kid in different states, but I went to high school in Alpharetta, Georgia. I went to Milton High School, and it's there that I was involved with flood and with Miss Gales. After high school, I went to undergrad college at the University of Georgia in Athens. And going into college, I knew I really had an interest in history from high school. I knew I wanted to study history. And so that was my major going into college. And I eventually picked up a second major, a double major, which was religion. So I studied those two in college. And I think it was good because that really helped me develop some reading and writing abilities that I used in law school and that I use today as a lawyer. So I enjoyed studying those. And then after undergrad at UGA, I was looking at applying to law schools. So I went into college. I knew I wanted to study history, but I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do with that. I knew that if I was a history major, kind of my career options just with that might be a little limited. I figured I was going to have to go to some more school. And I was deciding, well, maybe I want to be a teacher, or I thought about going to law school. And, going into college, it's not like I knew what I wanted to do with my life, with my career, but I figured that out and I think ended up in what's been a good place. So looking at law schools, I stayed right at the University of Georgia. And part of that was I had met now she's my wife, then she was my girlfriend at UGA when I was a freshman, and she was still a student there. So I didn't want to move across the country if I didn't have to. And going back to Georgia for law school, they had in-state tuition. They gave me a very generous scholarship. So I just stayed right there. And, I love UGA. I love Athens. So it was great to stay there. Now for law school, I didn't know exactly what kind of law I wanted to practice going in. And I'll talk more about the law school experience later because there's a lot there. But as far as where I ended up, where I'm at now, I'm an assistant district attorney in Barrow County, Georgia. I work in Winder, Georgia is where the office is. And basically that's criminal prosecution. So I'll talk a little bit more about what that is later as well. But going into law school, after my first year of law school, I actually interned at the same office I'm working at now. So I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I figured I'd try this. I knew it would be good experience, and I loved being in that office. I love the people that I work with even now. And UGA Law School has a great program where for your third year of law school, they're very generous with giving class credit for what's called an externship. And basically that's just an internship, but you get class credit for it. So my last year of law school, I got class credit for doing an externship in the same district attorney's office. And actually, as a third-year law student, you're much more free to get into the courtroom and actually handle things as long as you're supervised. So I did a jury trial as a third-year law student, and I think that experience in that office really helped me get the job. I mean, it did. It helped me get the job I have now. And this past January, my wife and I, since I had finished up law school, we moved from Athens to Braselton, Georgia, which is northeast of Atlanta. So it's kind of how I've got where I'm at.
Well, one of the things that I often tell students, and I'm glad you mentioned it, you don't always have to figure things out or have it all nailed down when you get there. You can change majors. That's why I love internships and volunteering places, because it gets you experience and it kind of lets you do things and learn what you do like, what you don't like. So what would you say to students who think they have to have all that figured out, like you didn't?
Yeah, you don't have to have it all figured out. I remember even in high school, we would have career counselors and stuff, and they would be trying to get us to think about possible career choices. And it's good to think about that kind of stuff. I mean, you want to have, some idea of, oh, I like doing this kind of thing, and I don't like doing this kind of thing. But yeah, absolutely. You don't need to go into college knowing exactly what you want to do for your career. You don't need to know exactly what your major is going to be. I mean, I went in with a history major declared, and I ended up, at one point, I added political science, and then I ended up with religion as my second major. But I mean, especially at UGA, I know students change their majors so many times. It's totally normal, and eventually you'll end up where you need to be.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about like where you are now, kind of what you do, and then some of the different areas that someone could go into law, just to give them a little bit of insight, because I don't know much about it, but I know lawyers are important, so you got to have them.
Sure. So I graduated law school and I passed the bar exam, which you have to pass to become a lawyer. So I'm a lawyer, but that's very general. More specifically, as an assistant district attorney, I prosecute criminal cases. So in my office, the district attorney's office, our job is to prosecute all criminal cases in the entire county. And that ranges from murder cases to speeding cases. I mean, it's everything. The caseload that I'm assigned, because I am relatively inexperienced still, is your less serious cases. It's a misdemeanor caseload. So the cases that I spend most of my time on are DUIs and domestic violence cases. And those are very serious. We give them the attention they deserve, but they are still misdemeanors, not your felony cases. So that's kind of what I do, but the world of law is very diverse. There's so many different things you can do, and you can certainly branch out to do a number of different things and get into different practice areas. So like my good friend from law school, he does wills and trusts and estates. He helps people plan for, financial plan even after they're going to be dead. So he actually helped my wife and I draft our wills recently. People do real estate law, so they manage real estate transactions. We dealt with a real estate lawyer when we bought our house back in January. There's business law. That's a big area. People advise businesses on legal issues. They deal with mergers and acquisitions of businesses. This very complicated stuff. And one other thing is that in undergrad and college, I was a history and religion major, which I think that translates naturally to law school in some ways because it's a lot of the same reading and writing skills, but you can study anything in college and go to law school. It's not limited to a certain number of majors. I mean, I knew people in law school who they, were STEM majors, engineering, chemistry, things like that. I know someone who was a drama major in undergrad. So you can definitely study whatever you want in college and then decide to go to law school. And you also don't have to go straight from college to law school. So I did, and I think it worked out for me, but it certainly could be good and I think is helpful for some people to get some work experience after college and then come back to law school. So I had law school classmates who were in their 30s and 40s, and that was really more of a second career for them. So that's an option too.
Oh, that's really cool. One of the things that I thought of is someone who maybe has an interest in that, but may not necessarily want to go to law school. What are the people who you work with that are important that support you in what you do? Like, I think I have a neighbor who might be, she does something in the courtroom. I can't really remember, but tell us a little bit about that. If people who support a lawyer.
Absolutely. So even in our office, so I'm an assistant district attorney and I'm one of 10 assistant district attorneys, or we're called ADAs for short. But obviously the lawyers are not the only people working in my office. So we also have investigators who help us investigate cases and help manage the caseload. And there's also front desk staff who are going to be answering phones and just manning the front desk and helping anybody who comes in. And generally someone who is not a lawyer but may work for a law firm or assist with legal cases is called a paralegal. And there's a special certificate for that. So you have to do some training in school for that as well, but you can still get involved with that even without actually being an attorney, a lawyer. And of course you can get exposed to the law when you're in high school, when you're in college, when you're in law school. I mean, I know in my office, there are high schoolers who have interned in the office and gotten experience that way. And they said, well, maybe in the future I might want to, you know, go to law school, but I kind of want to dip my toes in and see what it's like first.
That's really cool. I started thinking about that. There's a lot of professions that have to support what y'all do. So I kind of wanted to tap on that. My connection's looking a little weird, so I want to try to wrap this up because we lost our connection last time, and I keep seeing these things. I'm like paranoid now. So if you think about like a high school student, someone entering college who is looking at this as a possible career path, I think you've given a really good scope of what all could be done. I was telling you earlier, you know, I ran a nonprofit for years, and there are lawyers who are needed for that side of things, to help nonprofits work in the justice, as far as like I say justice, it's all justice, but lawyers are really needed on both sides, in the business and then the not-for-profit and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of tag that along to what you were just saying earlier. But for someone who kind of might have an interest in this as a high school student going into college, what type of advice would you give them?
I would say if you think you're interested in the law, see if you can talk to a lawyer. You know, a lot of lawyers work on billable hours, so their time's very valuable, but I also like to think that lawyers would be generous with their time and would be willing to talk to somebody, a high school student or a college student who's interested in the law. We're all usually kind of nerdy with law, and we'll talk to anybody who will be willing to listen. So doing something like, it doesn't even have to be as extensive as an internship in like an office, because I know that generally that's going to be unpaid, and it's hard to, as a high school student, to give up your time for free. I mean, a lot of high school students have part-time jobs where they're earning money, but even just getting lunch with a lawyer sometime, if you're able to, I think would go a long way in trying to see, you know, is this really something I would be interested in doing?
Yeah, very cool. I was trying to look back in my notes and make sure that I didn't miss anything. Was there anything else that you thought that you wanted to add to kind of give some nuggets of information or knowledge, or any last thoughts?
To give some what now?
So just is that there was any kind of like little last nuggets of information or thoughts that you would want to share with a high school student, or, you know, a college student who was kind of early on in thinking about this?
Yeah, I guess one other thing is that, so I do criminal law, criminal prosecution, and I am in the courtroom a lot, you know, on my feet, talking to the judge. And I think people maybe get the impression that that's what all lawyers do from seeing TV shows like Law and Order, and that's maybe more dramatic than real life.
Yeah.
But also, all lawyers, and really most lawyers, are not often in the courtroom.
Mm.
There's kind of that public impression that it's like that, but a lot of lawyers, you'd be working in an office and working with people, not necessarily being in the courtroom and doing the you know, law and order type stuff.
Okay, so one of the things that we brought up before in some of my other interviews is that you have some people who are kind of more wired to work with people and they like that interaction, and then some that are more like to work on the task side and maybe don't enjoy necessarily the people part. In law and being a lawyer, are there two sides of that? Are there some that could fit in both of those different categories?
There are. I think part of the reason I like my job is because I get both and I enjoy both. So I enjoy working with people, talking to people, helping to hopefully solve people's problems. But also, if I'm presented with some kind of legal question that requires a lot of in-depth research, I may be just, you know, have my nose in a book, or really it's online doing legal research for hours at a time without talking to anybody. So I get a little bit of both. And as far as ends of the spectrum, I mean, you can get into a field of law where you are dealing with people all the time. But you could also get into a field where, you know, you're presented with issues and you may not actually be interacting with people on the front end. So I think there's a spot in the law for both your people person and your kind of task-oriented person.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you're a little bit of both and you have the best of both worlds with what you're doing. So that's good. That's good. Okay, well, I just want to say thank you for giving up some of your evening. I know, I'm assuming that you're pretty much like an 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 job day. I don't know, maybe. Is that kind of your job frame? Do you pretty much kind of have like an 8-hour a day job routine?
I think you cut out a bit where you're asking just about my job routine.
Yeah, like I'm assuming you kind of have like a regular like 8 to 5 type thing.
Yeah, so normally it is. So our office is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And generally that's the hours that I will work. And I like my job because there is good work-life balance. I'm normally not pulling these 60, 70, 80 hours weeks that frankly, some lawyers are, and I'm glad that I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
There are times where I'm working more. So it's kind of comes in ebbs and flows. So with my job, a few times a year, we have jury trial weeks. And that's when there's a lot of preparation required to present a criminal case to a jury. And
Wow.
so leading up to those, maybe working weekends more, maybe working late nights more. But for the most part, it's going to be kind of your 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Well, that's pretty cool, doing a jury. I need to come, keep me posted when you do that. I want to come see you in action.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So, okay, Andrew, thank you so much. It was great to see you again and catch up and just see you in this different world. I love it that you're doing what you love. And I just thank you for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad I could.
All right.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in today.